Hey everyone, in today's video I want to talk you guys through my process of how I created this animation. Now, full disclaimer, this isn't a follow along tutorial, it's just me showing you guys how I work. So I'm going to show you guys quickly a breakdown. This is sort of how the animation played off in my head before I even started with the 3D. So this is Blender, and just to give you guys a little bit of an idea, I've zoomed out and yeah, this is everything that is happening in the scene. Okay, so most of the animation only plays off on this small part right here. The rest that you see here is only for background effect. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So what I did is I started with the animation like this. I placed my character, and then in the timeline I've set my different cameras. So the first thing I want to show you guys here in Blender specifically is I've only very recently learned about this trick, but you can place your cameras in the timeline so that you can jump between different cameras. So this makes it a lot easier for animation and specifically also for rendering. So this is sort of how I started with the animation. So I first just made sure that my cameras were all in place and the flow was nice and everything was readable. So this is basically like the outlines of the animation. And this is where I started coloring in the animation. So for instance, this shot over here, I just felt like we needed a bit more mountains in the background. So what I did is after this is I duplicated the first plane that I created, this one over here. And then I basically just started moving the sand and then stretching it a little bit to sort of get an idea of how mountains would look in the distance. Now, so it took a little bit of trial and error playing with everything, but this is sort of how the final came out. So this is now with everything back. So these planes around here is really only for background effect basically. So after I was happy with like the composition and everything, this is sort of where the coloring phase started. So this is now what they call material preview. So there's still no shading from lights or anything. This is just the material as it is. So it's basically two materials. The first one is sort of this sandy kind of material that you guys must have seen now. And then the other one for the mountains in the background is sort of like this concrete texture, which I'm almost 100% sure is wrong, but I thought it worked. So after the coloring was done, it was time to move on to lighting. So I switched over to render here. My light setup was basically just one sunlight here at the bottom. So let me show you guys what I mean. So the sunlight is for all these shadows around the sand so that it feels like there's a huge object casting light in the entire environment. And then there was just this one to sort of cast a bit more light just on where the cameras were. After the lighting phase, it was time to move on to the fog. Now, what the fog is, it's basically a square object that in Blender they call it a volume shader. So you apply volume to this square, and then when you put this around sort of your landscape or in your landscape, so this is when I sort of take it out. This is the fog sort of halfway in the scene. So the fog allows you to sort of get this feeling of depth in your scene. So when you look at a landscape, you get that same feeling of objects disappearing sort of on the horizon. But now let me show you the real reason why I wanted to use the fog. Is for this part in the animation, there appears this sort of red object on the horizon and Johnny sees it. And without the fog, this is sort of the feeling that you would have gotten. Okay, well I think that wraps it up for this video. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I would love to know what you guys think, and if any one of you have maybe some advice for me, something that I could have done better, I don't know, please let me know, and I will see you all in the next video.